Previously, the Ekumeku rose from silence and shadows, defying an empire that believed itself unstoppable. Twice, they forced the British to bleed in the rainforests of Western Igboland. Twice, they showed that the League of the Silent Ones could shake the foundations of colonial ambition. But the British did not forget, and neither did the land. This is the continuation of that story, the third struggle, the bloodiest of them all. After the second struggle between the Ekumeku warriors and the British colonial forces, the local chiefs and the British hoped to live in peace together. But as it had been since the coming of the Europeans, the intention of the British was nothing but exploitation and colonization. Labor supply from the chiefs dwindled. They refused to continue providing labor to the very people who had caused them so much pain and harm. So, the British devised new means of taking control of the abundant human capital under these chiefs. A free labor market was established and several laws were passed. One of the most damning was the Master and Servant Proclamation No. 12 of 1903, where slaves were rebranded as apprentices, bound to their masters by strict contracts. It became illegal for any slave to leave his master's house. Anyone found abroad without sustenance faced prison terms. Another law authorized officials to call on chiefs or heads of houses to provide forced labor. It declared, "Every chief may require all able-bodied men and women between the ages of 15 to 50 and 15 to 40, respectively, residing within his jurisdiction, to work in accordance with his direction on any river, creek, or road." Refusal meant imprisonment, flogging, fines. The chiefs themselves were now under the colonial government. To enforce obedience, native courthouses were established in 8 Anioka towns, ruled by warrant chiefs, men appointed solely to promote colonial interests. They were given authority over all issues between slaves and masters, instantly rendering traditional courts powerless. This single act tore authority away from ancestral leaders and handed it directly to the British. Tension thickened. The Igbo people felt reduced to strangers in their own land. A confrontation was inevitable. The Obi of Ubulu-Ukwu, the most influential citizen in the region, was overlord not only of Ubulu-Ukwu but also of Ubulu-Uno, Ubulu-Okiti, and Ashama. He had been friendly to missionaries because they never meddled in the slave trade. But these new laws meant his authority was crumbling. The warrant chiefs deepened the anger with corrupt practices. The Obi protested. His people protested. Their voices were ignored. A mass uprising erupted in Ubulu-Ukwu and Onikolona. Court proceedings were boycotted. Some warrant chiefs were arrested and tried by the community court under the Obi. They were sentenced to death for disrupting a human sacrifice ritual of a renowned chief. News of this spread quickly. W.E.B. Copeland Crawford, who had already planned to attack Ubulu-Ukwu, seized this opportunity. A forced entry into the town was sanctioned to rescue the condemned warrant chiefs. The invasion enraged the Obi and his people. Missionary buildings were destroyed. Christians were attacked. Many openly declared for Ekumeku, even the Obi himself. This drew Dunkwu, who carried a deep hatred for missionaries, out of hiding. He returned to lead the Ekumeku warriors. The most brutal battle yet was about to begin. This time the Ekumeku warriors prepared a remarkable strategy. They fortified Onikolona, Ubulu-Ukwu, and Ukwunzu, a town 15 miles away, surrounded by dense vegetation, reachable only through a narrow gorge perched atop a hill. Ukwunzu would be the war's decisive ground. On the night of January 18, 1905, a troop of Ekumeku soldiers passed through Isalink Pitima on their way to Ukwukwu, planning to intercept a British column returning from Quail Country. But intel reached the commanding officer of the Asaba Hinterland Expeditionary Force. At dawn on January 19, 1905, he launched a surprise attack, driving the Ekumeku back into the bush. He left some troops at Atuma, then marched into Onikolona, meeting the full force of the Ekumeku warriors. A week of brutal battle followed. Onikolona was on the brink of falling. As planned, the Ekumeku retreated strategically into Ukwunzu, luring the British in. There, the forest swallowed the invaders. There, the hills echoed with gunfire and war cries. There, the British were massacred. The Ekumeku dominated both tactically and militarily. The British retreated to Ugbadu, now deserted. Victory swept through Igboland. Special honor was given to Nwa Ngwele Amane, a legendary warrior and hunter of Ukwunzu. But triumph can be blinding. Believing the British broken, the Ekumeku marched toward Ubulu-Ukwu. This single move would prove costly. A week later, British forces at Ugbadu learned that Ukwunzu was deserted and the Ekumeku had moved entirely to Ubulu-Ukwu. They seized the opportunity and attacked Idumujegboko. Farms were destroyed. Homes burned. Bush camps raided. By February 1905, Idumujegboko and surrounding towns had fallen. The British then turned toward Ubulu-Ukwu, guided by a former Ekumeku warrior captured earlier at Isili-Azagba, Onwadaiju, who revealed a secret path known only to the Ekumeku. The betrayal ignited fury. The Ekumeku swore to end Onwadaiju's life before he revealed more. They set an ambush on the secret route. Nwanyebo was tasked to shoot Onwadaiju as the signal to attack. When the British reached the ambush point, Nwanyebo fired. Onwadaiju fell. The Ekumeku erupted from the bush, overwhelming the colonial troops and chasing them back. The British regrouped at Isili-Azagba. Scouts moved toward Ubulu-Ukwu. Those scouts saved them from another ambush, one that would have destroyed the expedition entirely. Armed with this knowledge, they avoided the traps and advanced into Ubulu-Ukwu. The town itself was a fortress. Its planning was intentional. Every household connected directly or indirectly to the Obi's palace. The palace was the heart, the most protected point. The Ekumeku dug trenches with interlinked pathways. But their most brilliant tactic was hidden near the great pond of Ogodo Alum. There they buried a trumpeter in a hole, covered with earth up to his shoulders. His head was protected with a metal pot. From this position, he observed British movements and signaled precise targeting to his comrades. The British advanced. Casualties mounted on both sides. They seized the second trench and the pathway to the Obi's palace. The Ekumeku counterattacked fiercely, pushing them back. Victory was almost within reach, until the British deployed the Maxim guns and shrapnel. The fight raged, but the outcome was sealed. The British overran the trenches. They seized the palace. It was February 16, 1905. The battle had ended. As tradition demanded, chiefs sent emissaries to negotiate peace. But the British refused them. Instead, they imposed crushing fines. They punished entire communities suspected of supporting the Ekumeku. Reports sent to London painted the natives as aggressors, a convenient lie to justify devastation. Even the Ezen were not spared. Attacks against them were justified as necessary to prevent future disturbances. By March 12, 1905, the Asaba-speaking region was declared subdued. 250 Ekumeku chiefs were arrested and awaited trial in Asaba prisons. 15 were still at large. The years that followed were bitter. The people of Western Igboland felt truly wronged. The power of warrant chiefs grew stronger. Traditional systems were crippled. A man who once maintained his freedom until proven guilty now lived under foreign rule and foreign laws. Yet all this ensured only one thing. Peace was impossible. Another confrontation was inevitable. The fire of Ekumeku had not been extinguished, only buried, waiting to be reignited.
Thank you for joining me on this journey of African history, philosophy, and mythology. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos on African history, philosophy, and mythology.